in quick time, from paper to the label with a favor in to get signed.
You know, at open mics I roll the dice, so enticed by the glowing lights and flows that I go home and write. Focus right, sharp as a Bowie knife, with the record label dream becoming my only goal in life.
And Savant. All right, thank you so much for coming. This is my first time ever giving a presentation off of Google Slides, so we'll see how it goes. I have a backup plan. Incognito mode. Does that count? All right, this is full contact recon, and this talk is basically about how we front load red team and pen test operations with recon such that without touching the target infrastructure, we're able to make our first connection into target infrastructure with a privileged shell. So I am at savant42, and that is at Dual Core Music. He is the rapper in Dual Core. You'll see him rapping later tonight.
Album. Yeah. When it's done.
You'll see him rapping later tonight with Busta Rhymes, who's in the second row.
We go way back.
Disclaimer. You guys can read. This is me. Anybody know what syscall that is that I put in my who am I slide? That's cool. I didn't. I had to look it up in the kernel source. It's like get UID or get effective user ID. I don't remember. But anyways.
All right. This is me. Hello. David and I haven't presented together yet in a formal way, and so he's gonna poke me in the side if I tend to rant in a little bit because I've been drinking. So anyway, that's me. So basically, what this talk's going to look like is we're going to go over the conclusion first, just so that you know up front what you're getting into. Then we're going to talk about Operation Whirly Derby Conspiracy, and we're going to talk about the full contact recon methodology, which we'll get into right now. So right up front, basically when you're doing a pen test, you're typically time boxed, and so that means that you usually have to make a balanced trade-off between what you'd like to do and what you could do if you had unlimited time. But with full contact recon, you can prioritize these steps in a way that will reduce or produce higher results in a similar period of time.
And on the flip side, let's say that you're on blue team and you don't really get many cycles for doing red team or offensive operations. These are some easy and repeatable steps that you can do to run against your organization you'll catch some low-hanging fruit, and maybe you'll find some holes that you can plug up.
So I guess to sort of get into why this is sort of a thing, we need to look at what I've broken down to ostensibly 3 different types of offensive security operations. So there's pretenditration testing, which is what we typically in the industry call vulnerability assessments, but what the marketing people call an actual pen test, and is typically someone's running an authenticated Nessus scan, and maybe they're going to use Metasploit, and they'll actually pop a couple boxes, but the results aren't necessarily comprehensive, but they definitely sell more consulting work to the customer, which is, I mean, I guess that's cool. It's loud because you're time boxed maybe a week, 2 if you're lucky, and so you just have to spray packets, just like a fire hose all over the place, and a hardened target that is looking for active threat actors is going to notice this type of stuff because it's loud. And you usually have scoping handcuffs because you don't actually want, the customer doesn't want you to find anything. They just want to check a box and move on. And if there's any recon at all, it's typically half-assed and fast. Then there's the next step up, which is a more resilient penetration test. I'm going to call that a skirmish. And my previous employer, we refer to it as a strike team scenario. You use a kill chain accelerator, you start from a strategic point on the network, you've got an advantage. This tends to be more Dungeons and Dragons like. Well, like what if an employee got phished? They use kill chain accelerators, and if there's any recon, it's typically automated.
Yeah, you're essentially, in this situation, you're proving out a scenario. Given a shell in this location, can we achieve this objective?
And then there's yellow scope, which is what my awesome team did do, still does do, and will continue to do. And it's simple. It's get in, steal everything, don't get caught. Because no one wants to be the person that burned an op that ran for 3 months because they had shitty OPSEC. Recon is critical here. So I keep talking about full contact recon, which is a bit of an oxymoron because the idea is you aren't making contact with the target, but it's so effective that it's like being sucker punched. So it's basically, been tossing around this idea of packet economics, which is assigning an expense toward every packet that you send into a target environment. With full contact recon, you're valuing fewer packets, and you're leveraging human nature and tendencies over actual exploits. And so it's safer, it tends to be more reliable, and it still fits within our model of get in, steal everything, and don't get caught. So packet economics is essentially every packet is a detection possibility for a target. And if a target's really good and they have multiple tiers of their environment where, maybe corp is the Wild West and anything goes and there isn't as much detection because people have local admin and do stupid shit all the time. But then you start moving into pre-prod and staging and then finally into production, and ideally your detection is going to go way up. And so in each of these zones there is an associated expense. And so that's, in a nutshell, packet economics. And we typically, I'm trying to think of the last time we actually used a memory corruption exploit. Fuzzy, what do you think? The only time was when we found Ode in prod, and that was a memory corruption. We don't use off-the-shelf exploits, and the reason is that it's expensive. If something tips over, if something blows up, if it's got an AV signature that is in a lot of IDSs, you're going to burn all of the work that you've spent the last couple of weeks doing, getting your foothold into that environment. And it's really not usually the only path forward, and so it makes sense for you to dig a little deeper. So if I had to simplify the full contact recon philosophy, it's this. Find the systems, the hard targets, find the people, the soft targets, the stakeholders, find their creds, and find the source of truth, and do it quietly. So the impetus of this methodology was we had an operation on our red team where we were just coming off of a really crappy op where we didn't quite win all of the wins that we wanted. We still, we did what we needed to, but our egos were a little bruised, and so we were bloodthirsty. And due to political malignment upstairs, we were not able to start as soon as that we had hoped to, with the caveat that we had plenty of time to do reconnaissance. And so, angry with nothing else to do to vent our frustration, we ended up just going hard in the paint on finding everything we could about the target organization, so that by the time we were actually scoped in on day one, we had administrative access over the product, we had privileged access onto the production environment, and we had VPN access into corp. So we basically had won before we began, and so we thought, well, shit, maybe we're onto something. So we're going to do a scenario because I can't obviously talk about the things that we've done in the past. I'm going to make something up. And in this situation, Dirty Rick really wants to get the source code to the one true Morty. The one true Morty is the ultimate pocket Morty. And if he can sell them and counterfeit, he would be able to then reproduce them and make a fat profit. So he hires Hacker Rick to get that data for him. Hacker Rick does some brief recon. He's considering the gig. He doesn't know this person very well, but he realizes that the database, he's broke as hell, so he needs the work. And he realizes the database is being hosted, not hosed, by Citadel operative moles deep within NASA on Earth C-137. And these are, don't fuck with NASA, please, disclaimer. Hacker Rick consults savant's totes legit matrix of pwn probability and decides to take the gig. Well, what the hell is that, you might ask? Well, yes. This professional piece of wisdom right here is what I call the older a target is, the more technical debt that they have, and the more contributors that they have, the more likely someone is to make a mistake or assume that it's someone else's problem. And so the likelihood of probability to the sky. So that's kind of what we're thinking. So here we go. We're going to walk through what that looks like in a scenario.
So this is the find systems part of the simplified version of full contact recon. So we all know IP addresses, right? And so we're trying to find what are the IP addresses, the systems for our particular target. To do that, one of the resources we can leverage are AS numbers. AS numbers are basically what dictate how the global IP space is laid out. Lucky for us, there is a database online for free, all zipped up. So you just grab it with wget, decompress it, and then we can grep through the resulting CSV file and do some lookups from there. So take photos. I don't know if the slide deck will be online or not.
I mean, I don't care.
If you guys get a shell on my laptop, you can totally exfil the slide deck. It's fine. Video will be online too. Yeah, cool. So hit pause.
Pause.
And we're back. And so this is what it looks like. And in this case, we're just looking for NASA. So literally, we do our wget, decompress it, and then we grep for NASA and run it through some awful bash that I chained together, and we get IP addresses down at the bottom left.
Spoiler, there's a lot of awful bash between us in this presentation. Nah, that's good. Okay, so that's cool. We got ranges. Ranges are good. It's a good place to start. What's also interesting is that we've got these DNS, passive DNS transfer record archives that are available online. They go back to 2008, and basically, some people have agents within some of the root DNS servers, and you can search by string or by CIDR notation. And you get this really interesting list of hosts containing the string. And this is useful because, say you're a startup and you have a product and it works pretty well and you've got your old infrastructure, but then you get acquired. And the company just Borg assimilates your product into their production infrastructure and changes the CNAME record on the DNS. But the old stuff is likely still online, or it might be online. And if it is, it's likely hasn't been maintained because the powers that be assume that the new stuff is secure and everything is good. So you end up finding a lot of interesting technical debt using passive DNS records. And in this instance, we have 11,958 IP addresses with the string NASA in them. So that's a pretty nice bucket of host enumeration. And we haven't touched the target environment, 0 packets. And another interesting trick, hat tip to Dylan at Salesforce who turned me on to this. Google's certificate transparency report, which used the search bar below to look up all the domain, blah, blah, blah. You can do something similar as well. And you can look up host names, and it's from Google, so it's recent, it's less stale. And here we've got another 5,949. Oh, 949. Hey!
The certificate transparency was you. The DNS brute forcing is Dylan, right?
No, he turned me on to a lot of stuff. What up, Dylan?
Shouts out Dylan, regardless.
Right, this.
I'm trying to get some line.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
I love it.
And then this is another opportunity brute forcing DNS host names using Sublister, using Fierce and DNS Recon and other utilities. A lot of them have passive transfer capabilities. A lot of them also just brute force. So there are some packets to be involved. I think that the general risk is pretty low because you're on the internet trusted zone and you're making DNS queries, and it typically isn't attack traffic. But beware that that's a way that you could blow your op. But using Sublister, for example, in the default settings, we're able to find another 1,100 or so DNS names. And no 0 packet talk would be complete without talking about Shodan. And I won't get too far into it because everyone's seen this talk about Shodan, so we know that that's a thing. But what's interesting is that you can search by string, by organization, by technology, and by CIDR notation. So by searching for NASA org, National Aeronautics and Space Administration, and drilling down upon interactive services, now we're starting to see login opportunities, services that are meant to be used by humans and have scary looking warnings that they're government property, and seriously, don't fuck with them. I mean that. But now, okay, we're starting to get an idea of places that we can use the creds that we are eventually going to get.
So that's part of the finding systems. We're going to move on to finding people. So we generally kick off our ops with a foray into social recon. We're trying to identify who are the people that have access to the things that we want. Generally, our mission objectives are something like exfil customer data, backdoor source code, tamper with the build pipeline, stuff like that. So you want to find the people that have access to that, devs, engineers, database people. And lucky for us, a lot of those people are like us and they contribute to GitHub. So our premise here is that we aggregate database dumps continually. We have IDK how many hundreds of gigs of database dumps, but
300.
Like over 9,000.
Yeah, a lot.
And so if we can collect as many email addresses as we can about any particular individual of interest, we can then search for those email addresses inside the aggregated database dumps, take those hashes out, and then start translating to clear text creds. So a great platform for scraping email addresses for people of interest, high value targets, is GitHub, right? How many people know that when you make a commit to GitHub, there's an email address associated with that, right? So let's like programmatically just dump all those email addresses out because computers are way faster than I am. I mean, I type like 70 words a minute, which is pretty fast, I'd say, but over 9,000. All All right, so this is what a typical, like if you're doing it manually, looks like. So in this case, I'm just cloning my anti-forensics repo off of GitHub, and then grepping through the commit history using git log and an awful email regex that I took off of Stack Overflow. And you see, like there at the bottom, int0x80. That's me. Shell code for int80 on Intel systems. All right, so I wrote this tool because, like I said, computers are way faster than I am. So this tool is called GitHump. So in this case of trying to find the one true Morty's DNA at NASA, let's see who we have for NASA contributors on GitHub. The who's who of who's you and me. So we're just going to go to NASA's GitHub, and we'll look at the people. How about this bro, Brian Thomas? So we found Brian Thomas. Okay, so GitHub and Brian Thomas. And away we go. All right, so what's happening is GitHub is actually like cruising through Brian Thomas's repos. And it's actually going to take a little bit. So we're going to watch a video. And I proposed a video originally at work, and it was declined, even though I made all this research on my own and not on work resources. I'm here presenting as int80, the wrapper in dual core, not as an employee of some faceless corporation. So anyways, Savant picked this video. Good selection,
Yeah,
Savant.
I thought it was amazing. Yeah.
And Sarah Norris showed this to me.
Yeah, they're lovely.
You're like my whole heart.
You're my whole thing. Just go live your life and be single. Just go boyfriend store or be single. Are you saving for college?
Oh no, not yet.
Relax, I'm gonna make your pizza. This smells delish. You smells like an armpit. It's cute. I wish I could get it.
What job do you want to have when you grow up?
Cupcake. Shower.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Put perfume on and
I mean, I've seen
lotion.
it before.
Armpit fresh and then go.
Is that Jack breath?
Sorry guys, I'm human. I can't party with you. So what's I waved to that girl. She waved to me. I just don't care what people think. I just farted. I'm sorry.
I'll do whatever.
Ava,
What?
I love you.
I love you the frickin' mostest.
I'm so dizzy right
Can
now.
we do this again?
Yeah. Where's your ID?
I don't have an idea. I didn't bring my purse or wallet. Look, that's classy Jen over there. Try to be all fancy. I'm craving some sushi.
Me too.
Hello, friend. Hello, friend. Friend. Oh. I'm just dreaming of tacos right now. God. This is how you. This is how to flirt. Hey, bud.
How do you flirt with boys? Does that work?
Yeah, very well, actually. No, I don't have a boyfriend yet. First, I gotta get married. Do not make out. Do not.
Do not make out.
Let's go on an adventure today.
Oh, yes, girl.
I'm glad that we stayed home.
I love exploring pizza. Look at it. It's freaking bats. I love Halloween. Look. How you driving, sir? Yeah, you're driving.
Like,
Do you have a
couple days, maybe you should take it
do
off.
you have a boo-boo?
That'd be so embarrassing for her,
And
right?
like, no, I don't. Mama.
If you could live anywhere, where would you live?
Bacon house. Come on, Thomas. But he's saying it to this troll bear. For get that.
Like how it's gonna be and whatever.
I'm side-eyeing you so hard right now. Side eyes. Hey, buddy, let's be friends and high-five and stuff. Oh, no, there's not. There's a remix. All these clothes and nothing to wear. I mean,
Hey.
Hi, Mom, my dreams. I gotta go home because I forgot to vacuum my room. I'll be back.
What are you thinking about?
Pizza.
What?
Pizza.
Pizza.
What do you want to do tonight?
I want to have a dance party. Dancey, dance, dance. You'll never believe this. I got something on audio. I'm only slightly terrified. Crap.
Some what?
I need some crafts.
Oh.
Cat. It's pretty awkward, but I love you anyways. Thanks. Let down the boyfriend and then just be single. I've been single for a couple of years, actually.
Today is Monday.
Monday is for lame trons.
Yeah. That's not healthy.
Mom, get my nuts! Get my nuts! Fire makes me feel like a real person. I love you, he's a gigantic worm. Oh, I love you so much.
Wow, you look awesome.
I woke up like this, I woke up like this.
You are my best friend in the world.
We're two bacons in love. I am old.
How old are you?
16! I'm my grandmother. Check out my rod. I found the wood.
Do you know what state we live in?
Freaking Google it, Mom. I smell like beef. I smell like... Life, you're winning! You're winning at life, you're winning! Boys are beautiful, kind, and special.
All right.
Let's see how GitHump's doing. Oh, cool.
Right.
All right. So we have 64 email addresses that came back from Brian Thomas. Now, like, granted, we picked Brian Thomas as like a contributor to NASA. We don't know whether he actually works there or not. You know, I mean, we probably would, having done our social recon. We could also just point this at NASA, right? We could do like github.com/NASA, and it would dump all of the repositories. We'd be here for like another day or something. I think. I don't know how long it would take, but let's just really quick. Let's just grep NASA and see what we get. All right, cool. So we got email addresses for NASA employees, right? And a couple other things come out of this. Like we see there's like this like Emily Rayfield, but then we also see this like E Rayfield, right? So now we kind of have like a couple ideas of like email address formats, which will come back into play later on.
Can they see the code for that?
Oh yeah, thank you. I totally forgot. So Savant promised you some terrible bash, and here comes some more.
Away we go.
And here it comes. This is just me trying to make the output look pretty, using some color codes. So yeah, basically what we do is we count the number of directories we made. We set up a temp directory to store results in. At a high level, what's happening is GitHub is cloning all the potential repositories and then cycling or iterating through each repository clone and then processing all of the commits and looking for email addresses. So this is if we give it an org. There's like a separate API endpoint on GitHub. This orgs endpoint under, or repos endpoint under the orgs directory, and then same thing for users. And it basically just tries both. Processes each of the clones again. More like regex goodness that I copied and pasted off of Stack Overflow. And then after that, we just do sort and unique and get the unique email addresses out of that for the complete results. So, and this is up on my GitHub, github.com/int80. Yeah, and you can scrape it too. Yeah, it's totally fine.
In fact.
So the other thing is that you can tie this in with other pieces of automation in your infrastructure, right? So at work we use Slack, and we have a Slack bot, so we just wrote like an integration for the Slack bot. So you can do like bang git hump, point it at a target, and it will give you a list of results right there in the Slack chat. It's awesome. Also, don't forget about GIS. Like, GIS don't get covered by the API endpoints available from GitHub, but there's all kinds of email and other kinds of goodness that we'll show later on to find in GIS.
Yeah, GIS is the place where people are figuring shit out that they're not ready to commit, like literally commit to committing. So there's a lot of really good stuff that you'll find in GIS. So make sure you include that in your workflow.
So another big platform that you can find and get email addresses from for high value targets is Travis CI, right? So how many of us use like continuous integration, or like our organizations use continuous integration in their build process? Or
continuous inebriation?
And also yes. And in some of these cases, there's public-facing data, right? So as an example, this is kind of what the screenshot looks like, if you can see behind, if we look at the Travis CI for NASA. So, so I wrote this tool that basically does the same thing, TCI spy, and pulls names and email addresses out of there. And I'll demo that real quick, but it'll run faster, so we don't have to watch a video. But basically what I've done here, and this is all like documented in the README for TCI spy, but I basically use make virtual environment, so that way like the pip dependencies play nice across the system. Install the Travis Pi pip Python module, and then we run TCI spy. Now, if you notice back here, there's this like MD5 string. This is actually a token that you'll need to generate from your personal GitHub account. But again, all of this is touching infrastructure that is not the target's infrastructure. So if we run this really quickly, we'll run, I'm running it just against this NASA EDSC Echo Forms repository. We can find repositories by going to travisci.org and then typing our target in this case, again, the example is NASA. Also look, like in the second column, you'll see the number of commits. So if you have like a commit-rich target, you're likely to get more email addresses out of that, potentially. I don't know why a dance music is playing behind me, dancey dance dance. Anyways, so here's the cool thing that comes out of the TCI spy stuff, right? So we have, like, as an example, we have like bosun. We got both a bosun at nasa.gov and a bosun58 at Gmail. And so same thing, this guy, John Books, we get a Gmail and a Raytheon email address. The thing that's awesome about that is we have 2 email addresses for each individual, which we can now run back through our database dumps and get creds. Like, how many of us signed up for, like, as an example, LinkedIn with our work email? I didn't. I signed up with my personal, right? So if I work at Raytheon and I run this guy's Raytheon email through LinkedIn dump, I might not find any entries for him. If I run his Gmail address through the LinkedIn dump, I might get entries for him. So this is why this is pretty cool.
I think Dave's telling us something.
Dave's telling me that he loves me.
Yeah, he loves you.
I love him too.
A lot.
So I'll keep moving forward with the presentation. So now, like, finding more soft targets, like what are good platforms that we can use? Data.com. Data.com is an awesome free web app. You literally type in a target organization and you get names and positions and other information about employees. This is really good because positions and titles associate to the names and the people that you're going after. So this is like what a screenshot looks like. I've redacted the names, but we can see their titles, their cities, their locations. This helps build out on the social recon stuff.
And you can filter by job position as well, so that you're not wasting your time trying to log into production with an executive assistant's credentials.
Right. So instead of going after somebody who likely doesn't have access to the asset that you're after. Hunter.io, another good one for getting free email addresses. If you don't register an account, this is what the results look like. Obviously, you can like manually process these and probably tell that this is Michelle Johnson, Henry Partridge, maybe Harry, I don't know. Anyways, but if you register an account, which is free, you get like the full dump of email addresses. And then checking email addresses. So in this case, we pulled that bosun@nasa.gov. We can check and see whether that's still a valid cred. And that way, like maybe we should try logging in with this particular credential or not. If it's invalid, that means like the account's probably deactivated. There's another email, this is like trivial to do, verifyemail.org. And you can see this is doing a receipt to in the SMTP protocol. You can do a verify if you want. But the point to note here is that there is an actual connection being made into the target SMTP mail server, right? So at that point, unless the mail server is hosted somewhere else, like they're doing hosted email, you are actually touching the target infra. Not from your own infra though. This is like a website. So a takeaway from that could be that, is anybody here logging incomplete SMTP transactions? Nice, got one in front. So if you see like an SMTP connection start and you see like a verifier or receipt to, and then the termination or the connection terminates, like maybe that's somebody that's probing at your employees. So you're welcome, blue team. Have one on me, but just that one. Like I'm not. That's it. Twitter. Yeah, I actually used this for my rap stuff recently. I was trying to get in touch with an artist, and the email that I had for him had long since expired. So I totally ran this all my tweets plugin, and I went searching for @gmail.com in all of his tweets, and I found his email address and emailed him and was like, "Yo, we should do raps together." And he's like, "Oh yeah, for sure." So this is, I mean, you can also use this for work if you want, but rap music's more fun in my opinion. Anyways, the Twitter API is really easy. You can definitely write this on your own if you wanted to write your own standalone client. It's just RESTful HTTP requests, and they'll basically, all my tweets is doing is just aggregating all of the tweets for a particular account. So you're just basically making cyclical requests for windows of however many hundreds of tweets. And then at that point, you can search for common email suffix like, @gmail.com, @nasa.gov, @hotmail.com. What do people use now? That's not Gmail. Proton Mail, yeah.
Something.ru, yeah.
Cool. LinkedIn. We all know that LinkedIn has a bunch of data. That's awesome. How many people know that you can get an email address out of a person's LinkedIn profile if you have a copy of the LinkedIn database dump and they were on LinkedIn in 2014?
2011.
Or 2011. Yeah, that's when the compromise happened. Right, sorry. Cool. So this is me on LinkedIn, David Hacks, if you want to connect with me on my professional network. So what we do is we take the source of that, right? Do a view source, save it off, and looking for like an individual person, you can, again, amazing bash that I've strung together, pull out a unique ID. This will come out to be like a numeric string, like 6551212, whatever. You grep for that same numeric string out of this 1.sql.txt file, and you'll get the email address for that person. At least the one that they signed up to their LinkedIn account. Now, that's good for an individual, doing our social recon. What if we want to do this for like an entire organization, like NASA? We're in luck. So you go to the organization's site on LinkedIn, click this See All Employees. The bummer, I haven't figured this part out yet, but it basically paginates for, I don't know how many employees per page. So you're going to have to like manually go through and save these off or write your own script to go do that. I'm lazy, I haven't done that yet. But same thing, right? When we view source, we see these member IDs, in this case 401, 904, 425. Save that off again. More awful bash. Pause now. And we're back. And then again, grepping through that 1.sql.txt. One thing that I'll mention is that there are multiple copies of the LinkedIn or multiple versions of the LinkedIn dump. So, okay, cool. So yeah.
Also an OPSEC note, if you're signing in with an account that you did not create as a burner LinkedIn, it's going to pollute your results. So like if I were to use my personal account, I would find cause as a potential NASA, people you might also be interested in. So OPSEC note, make a burner every time you do this.
Yes, and then this is what the IDs that look like come back as, or the IDs that come back look like. And then again, we're looking those up in this 1.sql.txt file that's in the LinkedIn dump. And the end result is we get email addresses.
That looks like unsalted SHA-1, Rick.
It is. All right, so now we've got a bunch of hashes. Rad. And a lot of people that are stakeholders in the targets that Hacker Rick and certainly other pen testers and red team testers are interested in are also going to be there. Now, if you can, spend as much money as possible on getting the CPUs, and you will not regret it. Because once you have those, you're going to say, crap, I wish I would have spent more. But, oh yeah, and shout outs to Terahash LLC, Sujeta. They make the Brutalis rigs. They're freaking monsters. Love them. But if you're broke AF, like our Hacker Rick in the original scenario, you need to find a cheaper option. So this is awesome. My friend Ali turned me onto this. Inside Pro's got a hash search functionality. And so if you grab all of the SHA-1 hashes out of the LinkedIn dump and put them in file inside.pro, this was just specifically for NASA. But we did nothing. It took a second, and all of a sudden we have 167 clear text creds and the SHA-1 hashes associated with them. That's racist. But if you don't, if that's not even good enough, sometimes they won't find them. You can use the Google rainbow tables, and you can see that we just picked a non-specific SHA-1 hash at random, and you see the password is ZZZZZZX. So we spent no money, and we have a bunch of hashes, which is pretty all right. Then again, as Adi alluded to earlier, there are, in fact, multiple versions of the LinkedIn dump, and last I heard, at least 90 to 96% of the LinkedIn hashes have been cracked already. So these are floating around, and if we just grep for our target organization, you can see that we found 1,628 credentials for NASA employees, and we have sent 0 packets to the target organization. So that seems like a pretty all right place to start.
And that's just on NASA.gov.
Just that one thing.
Personal email addresses associated with NASA.
Right.
And we could scrape from other platforms.
All right, so let's put this all together. We found the people, we found the places, we found the creds. What's left? The source of truth. And because humans are fallible and design systems for humans, they write things down. And sometimes this is in a Google Doc, sometimes it's in an email that gets forwarded to people. A lot of times recently it's been in a wiki. And more often than not, people are opting to have their wikis hosted externally. And if they're doing any sort of ACLing at all, it's typically minimal. And more often than not, they share, maybe there's a public portion of the wiki that they want their customers to have. And then there's the private part where all the dirty crap is. So by grepping the output of earlier when we were brute forcing domains, we see a bunch of wikis. That seems like a pretty legit source of truth. And we have this mountain of creds to burn through. And granted, brute forcing with login passwords is pretty risky, but considering how few packets we've already spent, we have an opportunity to learn even more. So in this situation, Hacker Rick, let's just assume that he was successful and logs into the wiki, and one of the many secrets, many that he finds, is an IAM token for an S3 bucket. You want to jump in?
Sure. I'll just also mention real quick, a great source of S3 buckets is, again, GitHub gists. So,
oh, by the way, that's the only Rick and Morty bucket image I could find was a dude with a bucket on his head. Sorry.
So yeah, so also, I mean, you can Google for them as well. But again, don't forget about GIS. And again, we're just trying to find S3 buckets that are publicly exposed. We're not, if we find them, we're not hitting the target infrastructure. How many people have seen duplicity or encountered duplicity at all? Cool. Duplicity is a backup utility. It's basically like you get rsync with GPG, which is awesome.
Open source.
Yep, free software. What you end up with as your backup is an encrypted, essentially tar archive, and it goes up into the cloud. Different platforms are available, but we encounter this on S3 sometimes. So using the AWS CLI, we're able to find some duplicity backups, pull them down, and then extract the contents. Do you guys notice anything in this screenshot? Yes. So I mentioned that by default there's GPG, but there is no encryption. So in this case, the target actually went out of their way to not use GPG. Thanks. So cool. Like, what do you get out of these backups? I mean, it varies case to case, but in this case,
home directories.
Yeah, we got home directories, we got SSH keys, we get secrets, and this bottom screenshot is just me using an SSH key from the duplicity backups to pivot and move to another box that was hosting a web authentication application, which I backdoored and then was pulling creds out of. But this is that grandma cred. Great password.
So we've absolutely crossed the trust barrier at this point, but we've done so without spending many packets. We've minimized the opportunity for protection, and now we can smash and grab inside the environment, take the data, and get out before anybody even gets the Nagios alert. And successfully, at this point, using the SSH private keys, hacker Rick was able to obtain the source code from the one true Morty. And if all of this seems oddly specific, it might be fiction based on some reality, so something to keep in mind. So in conclusion, full contact recon, you want to find the hard targets, the systems that you need to log into. You need to find the soft targets, the humans that are important in those systems. The people, as you move from Wild West Corp all the way into production, the number of users that are allowed to be in this side are decreasing every step that you go. And so the number of people that are actually going to be able to do what you want is going to be hyper specific. And so target that. And then find their creds, find all of the creds, find the source of truth that documents how to use the system, which means that you don't need to exploit anything because you've already found these passwords and you're using the thing exactly the way that they do. And you put it all together. In conclusion, you've seen this slide before. Full contact recon, A++.
And again, if you're on blue team and you don't have cycles for offensive security, this is, you don't have time to run a full red team op or a full pen test. This is stuff that you can do that's repeatable, that's pretty easy, and will help you find.
Scriptable.
Yep.
You can automate it and burn every cred that you find in these dumps. Just proactively.
Rotate creds and find low-hanging fruit before hackers do.
Cheers. So,
So before we take any questions, I'll say I'll post on my Twitter if I get fired. So just keep an eye at Dual Core Music. Okay, now questions in the back. Right. So in this case, the question is, what if there isn't password reuse, right? And how do we still keep our packets small? Oh, in success with that. Right. So the point is, if we do have cred reuse, it's great because that actual connection that we make into the target infrastructure is a successful one, right? We don't have to brute force any creds. So it's just one straight SSH connection in on the perimeter and we win. In the event that there isn't cred reuse, then we're out of luck, but we haven't encountered that yet.
But what you can do is you can use the credentials that you're seeing before, and if they're not obviously computer generated, you can use those as a starting dictionary and say hashcat and then apply mangling rules, because maybe my password was welcome123 and then it becomes welcome1234, etc. And so they're not the same passwords, but you've reduced the possible key space significantly, so your odds of success increase.
Yeah, and if the password in LinkedIn was, winter 2014, what do you think it is right now? Probably summer 2017.
Winter 2014, probably.
Or winter is coming 2017. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, you can smash tonight. And grab. You can grab. All right, cool. We'll see you guys at the Busta Rhymes show tonight. Thanks, guys. Oh, sorry. One time out. There was one more question. You got to go faster, man.
Yep. Hire a very attractive person of their sexual preference, and then be hyper specific at that point. I mean, without.
Yeah. The question is, what if the target individual does not have any social media preference, and that's a good one. We had an individual once that they had a GitHub account, and that was it, and we had no information about them. And in this case, with this individual, I actually went through manually in their Git log commit, and they actually had a previous version of their website that was hosted on GitHub Pages, and the template that they used had a phone number in it. And I was able to pull that phone number out of a previous commit. But again, that relied on them being on GitHub. If they, it was I mean,
answer the fucking phone.
Yeah, and this person would not answer the phone either. Like I was gonna call and be like, "Hey, it's me, the guy you met at the bar," and just to confirm her name, and she like never answered the phone.
Remember that op